Bearcat fans, I'm excited to welcome in my next guest. And, I've had him on the show several times, and he's always a big hit. He's the Cincinnati Bearcat beat reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer. My guy, Keith Jenkins. What's going on, Keith?
Guess who's the Zach? I gotta drop a J lyric off the top, right?
Oh, no question. And every time you come on the podcast, we've got to talk about a wide range of things. And you and I, when you call me or I call you, we just start talking about like everything beyond basketball. We could have a podcast just on our own, just talking about whatever.
Yeah, man. Nah, man, it's good to link up with you, man. How you been?
Always doing well, man. Doing well. Just glad we have some good weather here in the nasty natty. Well, let me say that I know it rained, but I'm glad we're out of the cold and the snow. I'm sure you are too as well.
No doubt. Maybe we got 2 more weeks of summer. we'll see how it goes.
Ain't that the truth, man? Now you've been on the beat here for 2 years now, right? You just had your anniversary.
I did. June 1st was my 2-year anniversary. What a slow, boring, like just nothing has happened in 2 years, right?
Nothing.
No, but it's been fun, man. It's been fun being back home, and obviously a lot of great things and wild things, good and bad and different have happened on the beat. So it's been a good time to be a Bearcats fan and to cover the Bearcats.
And would you say in your 2 years, what has been either the story that has really captivated you, that you take the most pride in, like the one story you've done, if there's one?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I don't know. I really enjoyed, obviously, the growth of this football program and seeing, up close what Luke Fickell and his staff and those players have done, particularly guys like Desmond Ritter and Maije and Kobe and Sauce and so many others, right? Just the work that those guys put in to really put, that platform on a bigger stage. That's been a lot of fun. And of course, being able to be with Dez on, for his draft experience and seeing, his big moment and seeing that with his family and friends. And so that was a lot of fun. But then, playing cat with Wes, Wes Miller and
yeah.
No one's doing that. Like, who will do that? Like, not a lot of coaches, would be willing to maybe look bad on camera, miss a few shots but Wes was a great sport and we had a lot of fun and he kicked my ass, right? But but it was fun, and it was different, and I think the fans really enjoyed it. And he and I just talked about it the other day about trying to come up with something again, just a little out of the box and something fun that I'll enjoy, he'll enjoy, and the fans ultimately will enjoy as we're gearing up for his season number 2.
Man, you set up so many things that I want to talk about. That was a perfect setup. Tell everyone how they can get your content and how they can follow you.
Yeah, Mr. Keith Jenkins on all socials, Mr. MrKeithJenkins, and then KeithJenkins.com is my personal website, and then Cincinnati.com is my employer. Shout out to the Cincinnati Enquirer.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to jump into, we're going to talk UC football, of course. We've really got to take a deep dive into that, and we're going to talk some UC basketball, this being the Bearcat Basketball Podcast. And then, of course, we've got to talk music and shoes.
Okay.
So you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. This segment is sponsored by the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Cincinnati. They have a new flexible bachelor's degree that will allow you to graduate conveniently and affordably, and you won't lose any credit or have to start over. So Keith, let's start with some football talk, and let's take it back a little bit. Not too long ago, but the Bearcats had a huge draft day, 9 players drafted. Can you talk about the impact of that on this program?
Huge. And, I remember a year ago for the 2021 draft, I spoke with Luke about that draft, and he said, just wait. He's like, this 2021 draft is just going to be a precursor or just a little tease of what we're cooking here, because the 2022 draft is going to be a record setter. And he was right. I mean, I think we all knew it, seeing the names that were on that roster and what was ahead. But, his goal has been to build a top 10 program. And the cool thing right now, if you're a UC football fan, and a lot of your listeners are obviously, you're watching and experiencing and witnessing it right before your eyes. You're literally seeing the program shift and get to a bigger plateau. And it was a big part of that was that 2022 draft. And, Sauce obviously kicked things off with the number 4 overall pick, but it was just guy after guy after guy. And the thing is, none of these guys are like, afterthoughts or just roster fillers. Like, these are high impact players who will play next season. Like, Brian Cook will play next season. Alec Pierce is going to play for the Colts as a rookie and have an impact. Desmond Ridder could start for the Falcons this season. So, these were great players who really transformed a program, and it's fun to see them accomplish their dreams and start this new chapter. But that draft, man, it was one of the most successful drafts in the history of college football, period. Whatever program you want to throw out there. But it's still, I'm not used to it yet. It still blows my mind that all of this is happening at UC. Like, this stuff doesn't happen here. But shout out to Luke Fickell and his staff for having a mission and carrying out that mission. Man, it's been an impressive thing to watch.
I agree. And so one of the things that I've absolutely loved, and all those guys you just talked about getting drafted, for the last 2 years, you've watched them grow and mature. And, for a lot of those guys, I go over to the university and I speak to the football team every year. And I remember speaking to guys like Sauce when he first got there. And a lot of those guys, Brian B. Cook, when he first got there. So to see them at that stage and then to see them on that stage of the NFL draft is like, wow. I remember Sauce coming up and talking to me and telling me they call him Sauce. And I'm like, Sauce? Like, wow. All right, bro. But, fast forward, and he's definitely earned that name. And so let me ask you this. I saw this kind of debate going around, and I want to ask your opinion on this. I have an opinion, but want to get yours first. Do you think that the Bearcat success, football-wise, this past season and making it to the bowl game, which do you think was bigger, that success or the success of the NFL draft in terms of helping to get the program to the next level? Or do they both go hand in hand?
No, and I was going to say that. I do think it goes hand in hand. Look, I'll tell you this. I just did a feature on Nick Mardner, and he's the Hawaii transfer wide receiver who, will vie for that void that Alec Pierce has left behind. He told me I was watching Cincinnati. I was watching, and he was on the Hawaiian island of Oahu, however many miles away, and he was just like, something was going on over there. And, I was impressed with what Luke Fick, he said Coach Fick, I was impressed with what Coach Fick was doing over there and what he was, how he was building the program and seeing guys like Alec Pierce and Desmond Ridder and these guys are going to be able to have an opportunity to play as rookies in the NFL. And so that stage was everyone's watching. There's 4 teams, right? There's only so all of college football, all eyes are on those 4 teams. And, whether Cincinnati won or lost, it was a huge platform for them. And, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, look, obviously they didn't win that game, but they went toe-to-toe with Alabama for a large portion of that game. You know, if that slant route to Alec Pierce in the end zone wasn't batted down at the line of scrimmage, you know, who knows what the outcome would have been. I mean, that one score could have changed everything. But it's just being able to be on that stage, and not just that stage, but the journey it took to get there. So watching them climb up the polls and getting as high as number 2 in the AP poll, and, you know, everyone's watching and trying to, like, what is going on at Cincinnati? Something's happening. And when you talk to Nick Martin, a guy who's from Canada and a guy who was playing football at Hawaii at a high level, he's like, I want to play there. And that's what's happening right now. Is there's a curiosity going on where, you know, we're seeing 4-star recruits. You know, it used to be news when UC got a 3-star. Like, oh my gosh, they just signed a 3-star? Now it's like, no, that's what we do now. It's you're not coming here unless you at least have 3 stars. But now it's like these 4 stars are coming because they see that, wait, this is different. Like, there is something special brewing here, and I want to be a part of it. And, of course, the move to the Big 12, all of this is just coming together and creating this perfect storm. And I'm sure I'm like spoiling a next topic, but we saw what happened, you know, this past weekend, where there was just an explosion of commitments. And that happens from time to time, but one, it doesn't happen at Cincinnati, but it also doesn't happen with this level of, like, they got a 4-star corner that could have went anywhere.
Yep.
They got high 3 stars, and it's getting to the point now where, you know, it used to be a huge deal when a 4-star would commit. They're just like, Derek Shepard came, Mario came, Trevor came, like they're just coming, and this is the top 10 program that Luke Fickell had envisioned. He's not quite there yet, but we're watching it happen, and it's crazy, but it's really cool, man, and to see all the work that Luke and his recruiting staff and coaching staff, and just, they've worked so hard, and to see it happen is it's really, really cool.
Yeah. So, and the reason I asked you that question was, you know, I was with several Bearcat fans, football fans, and we were talking about the season, and we were talking about the draft, and, you know, there was a guy, and he was talking about the impact of the draft and how it was the one thing in his eyes that was going to take the program to the next level, even bigger than, you know, playing Alabama. And I told him I thought the two went hand in hand. And what this reminds me of, if you go back and you really look at it, what's going on with the UC football program, we've seen this before, and that was Hugs with the basketball program. Sure. Think about it. Sure. He made the run to the Final Four. That stage of the Final Four, playing Michigan. The stage of the football program, playing Alabama. Then you get these guys drafted, the Nick Van Exels, the Corey Blunts, and then you start to see the influx of all these talented players start to come in that, you know, Hugs had that run for years with talented guys. It's kind of that we've seen this before. It's obviously a different sport, and, you know, the momentum is really fun. So, and the reason, and I'm glad you answered it the way you did, I think the two go hand in hand, much like it did with the basketball program. The Final Four kind of set that stage because people around the world were like, or around the country were like, I'm not really familiar with Cincinnati, but we all know Michigan. Right. We all know the Fab Five, and these guys are going toe-to-toe with the Fab Five.
No doubt.
You know, so I think a lot of similarities there. But let me ask you this question here. Another debate I've had with some friends. Of the 9 guys that were drafted, who, in your opinion, will have the biggest impact this coming season in the NFL?
That's a good question, and I think the first answer that comes to mind is probably Alec Pierce. I agree. I think he's in a great situation. I think
100%.
the Colts have great pieces there, great complementary pieces. Jonathan Taylor, they have an experienced veteran quarterback who I think still has some gas in the tank, and he's won a league MVP, led a team to a Super Bowl. Matt Ryan, of course. But I think Alec Pierce has the opportunity to play right away there. He has Reggie Wayne as his position coach, one of the greatest wide receivers ever, especially in the history of that franchise. So it's just a perfect storm for him to really get in there and do great work right away. And I mean, the only concern with Alec is you want him to stay healthy, and because he's had some nagging injuries here. But man, if he can stay healthy, and he's just in a great spot where he can just really do damage right away. And there's some other guys, of course, but if there's one, and like as I'm talking, I'm thinking back to your previous question, like it having all of these guys. If you're a big-time college football player, let's keep it 100. Like, your goal is to get to the league. Like,
Yep.
That's it. I mean, you want to – I'm trying to put myself in the best position to get in the NFL. And so you're seeing, Georgia does it, LSU does it, Bama does it, Ohio State does it. Wait, Cincinnati does it?
Right.
Shoot. Like, and so that I agree, and we said it goes hand in hand, but to see 9 guys and then – 3 more guys, I think it was, that signed free agent deals. So we're talking 12 that are in training camps. And, I mean, it's crazy. But, not to digress. Like, Alec Pierce is in a good spot. And it's funny. Like, I told Dez, I'd love for you to go to Colts because I think it'd be a great opportunity. He ended up in a great spot in Atlanta. But I remember talking to him before the draft. Like, man, if you can go to the Colts, they got so many great pieces. And then you could learn behind Matt Ryan for a year or two and just take over. But to have Alec Pierce in there, he really fell into a good spot. So I'm rooting for him, and we'll see how he does that first year.
And I had a friend who was at some of the NFL Combine things, and he played in the NFL, and he texted me and he said, "Man, this Alec Pierce kid is special." He's like, "How well do you know him?" And I'm like, just casually. I don't know him really well." And he's like, "Man, this kid really is special." And this guy won a Super Bowl. Like, he knows what he's talking about. And the more and more you hear about Alec from the people within the NFL, I mean, this kid's special, and we know that obviously. So I hope he does well. But you mentioned something that I want to segue into, and that is Des Ridder. And you spent some time with Des Ridder. And I thought you did a fantastic job. I actually called you and we spoke when you were on your way down to Louisville to spend some time with him and his family on draft day. Can you talk about that whole experience? I thought it was really cool to hear your perspective about that.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. It was a lot of fun. Before the draft, I was trying to figure out. I mean, obviously, this was going to be a historic draft for Cincinnati, and I wanted to figure out where I should be. Where is the most captivating story? What story would Bearcats fans want to read and consume most? And I pitched it to Sauce, and I thought about going to Vegas and being with Sauce and really capturing that historic highest drafted player ever. That would have been cool. But I just felt like Dez was different. Dez is a kid that look, his story in itself is just amazing. Like, his mom having him when she was 15, dad, biological father, wasn't around, and the things that she had to do and his family had to do to keep him on the right path, and not having a whole lot of offers. He had 2 offers when he committed. It was Cincinnati and Eastern Kentucky, and he wasn't a great passer. He was a great athlete, but he was not a great passer when he got here. And just to see his growth as a player, as a man. He got here at 17. He left 22 with a kid, right? Like, it's just we saw him truly grow into a young man, and he never. Look, I only experienced his junior and senior years. I wasn't here on the beat for his freshman and sophomore years, but I was still a fan, and I was watching him from afar, and I saw his mistakes. I saw his awesome plays, and just to see him grow and never change, never waver, never, never, even as fans were saying, get him out of here, put Ben Bryant in, he stayed
Hey, Keith,
the course.
I gotta say something here. I'm glad you brought that up. When I've got season tickets to UC football, and the folks around me were calling for Dez's head. They wanted him out of the game.
Yeah.
And what I loved about Coach Fickle in that moment, he heard all the chatter. He heard everyone saying, take Dez out. And he refused to. He goes, I see something in this kid. I'm with him every day. And I love that because fans only get a short glimpse of players. They're not with them on the grind every single day. And Fickle stuck with him. He didn't succumb to all the pressure from fans saying this and that. He stuck. They were. I mean, you could hear fans yelling it. I guarantee you the players could hear it on the sideline.
Yeah. No, I mean it was palpable. Like the energy, what was it? The Army game, I think he struggled, or I can't remember that junior year, but he had some struggles there early, and it was like, and we knew like, wait, but this Cincinnati team has an opportunity to do something special, and is Dez going to be the reason they don't get there? And it was the COVID pause, and I remember interviewing Mike Denbrock, and all of a sudden after that pause, I think it was a 28-day pause, Dez just came out firing. Like he looked like a different player. He looked more free. He wasn't afraid to, make plays with his feet. He was just, and his ball looked better. And Mike Denbrock was just like, I told him to trust his players. Like, do you know these guys? Well, then trust them. Go out there and just play football. And like Dez just went out there and freaking balled. And I mean, he played so well. They get all the way to the Peach Bowl, and Gino had to tell Gino Gadulli, offensive coordinator. Now he was the quarterback's coach at the time, but he had to tell Ben, hey, bro, like it ain't gonna work out for you here, bro. Like you need to go. Dez is our guy, so that's what made Ben go to Eastern Michigan, and then ultimately now he's back, and him and Evan are vying for that spot. But to get back to your question, like, the story was Dez. It was Dez. I mean, of all the 9 guys who were drafted, he was, in my mind, the biggest story, the biggest story that fans, I felt, would appreciate and really enjoy. And being able to be there with him and his family and his longtime girlfriend and daughter and his mom, and being able to, I had never met, Miss Ritter, Sarah. I had never met her before that experience, and just having an opportunity to chop it up with her. And I mean, there's so many funny stories. Like, she didn't want to be on camera, and I said, that's fine. I just want to make sure I get you for my print story. We don't have to do something on cam. And so we didn't put her on camera, but after he was drafted, there were so many like celebrations going on at this spot in Louisville, and I go outside and I find her, and I'm like, so when can I talk to you? And I hope she doesn't mind me telling this story, but she's like, can I curse on your podcast? Is that cool?
Yeah, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
So shout out to Mama Ritter. She's like, I'm like, so when can I talk to you? And she's like, why the fuck do you want to interview me? And again, she's really cool, and she and I are the same age, and so it's dope. And I'm like, cause your fucking son just got drafted, and she's like, oh yeah. But it was just a really cool vibe, man. And obviously he had to sit for a little bit, but it's funny, like he had a box of hats off to the side right behind the couch that he and his family were sitting on, and that box was sitting there for the 2 days, and the first hat at the top of that box was the Atlanta Falcons the entire time. And it was just, I mean, it was like fate, right? Like, of course, and he said when that Atlanta, Georgia phone number came across his phone, he knew that that's exactly where he needed to be. Like, he thought this team or that team, or he thought I should have went earlier or whatever. But when he saw that number, he's like, Atlanta, yup, let's do it. So that was special for me. It was, and look, in my job, I just want to do my very best to tell these guys' stories, tell these young women's stories, tell these coaches' stories, and that's the mission. And so being there in Louisville, shout out to Albert, my photographer who was there with me. We just really wanted to do it justice and capture it the right way. I'm glad it came out well. I'm glad fans enjoyed it. We do it for you guys. So, Dez,
yeah.
I pitched it to him. He was down. He had saw what we did with Derek Forrest, the previous draft. He's like, man, I would love for you to come down to my hometown and kick it with me. And we did it. And it was a lot of fun. And I'm really happy for him. And man, we know, man, he's a great kid. And, he's going to make it extremely difficult for the Falcons to keep him off that field.
Yeah, no. And I'm glad you did that story, because the success I think this program has had, you've got to put a lot on Dez, and just like you talked about the adversity he's had to deal with. And I thought the other unique piece to it, and you have mentioned this, but and we talked about this when you called me on the way down there, is that you felt like there was a connection between you and Dez. There were a lot of similarities between you and Dez.
Yeah. We're both biracial. His mom's white, his dad's black, his biological father's black, as is mine. Shout out to both of my parents, but my dad wasn't always there. Everybody know Keith Jenkins Sr. He was the big time football player at UC, and he was very instrumental in my football career and helping me get my first offer, which was from my first D1 offer was from UC. And, growing up, he went through some hardships. My father went to prison and some other things. And so, just my mom had to grind to do what she had to do to provide, and made a lot of sacrifices to make sure that I was okay and that I had what I needed to, have a happy childhood and to be safe and protected and nurtured and all of those things, and have good influences around me and make sure that I was on the right path and, get into good schools and so on and so forth. So, just chopping it up with Sarah and gaining an understanding of what she went through. And in that story, the draft story, I didn't get too much into Dez's I really wanted to hone in on that moment. I wanted to be most about how he felt in those moments and how the family felt, and just capturing that draft day experience. But, it meant a lot, those 2 days and that ultimate moment, because of what he's been through, and what that family has been through, and what that family had to do to get him to that point, and what he's had to do to get him to that point. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of similarities, and I've joked with Dez a lot. Like, I remember I went to a Hook's Fish and Chicken one time for lunch, and I had my Navy credential with me. I just left UC to pick up my credential for the Navy game, and the guy behind the counter thought I was Desmond Ritter, and I was like, and look, like I'm almost 6'1", not quite. Dez is like 6'4". I'm 195. He's 215, 220. And I'm like, he's like, are you Desmond Ritter? Do I look like that? And I told Des this story, and he's like, I guess all us mixed dudes look alike. All us light skinned dudes. So yeah, man, Des is such a great kid, man, and I hate saying the word kid. He's a young man, obviously, but it was obviously a special time, and we have a book out there called Breaking Down Barriers that chronicles UC football's great 2021 season, and I was able to give them a couple copies of that book, and Sarah was so excited, and it just to be able to be there and experience that, and just to be on the fly. I mean, I kept telling Des, like, look, man, whatever you want to do with me while I'm here, I'm down. Like, it's your world. I just want to be a fly on the wall. If you want to take me on a tour and show me your high school and, whatever you want to do, I don't want to get in the way. I just want to capture your moment. And, I really think that we did a good job with that, and I'm excited. I was excited to see how the fans would respond. The response was great. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. And, I mean, that's why we do it. Like, stuff like that is exactly why we do it.
Yeah, and I think in your 2 years with the Enquirer, that's my favorite piece that you've done by far. And I check out all your stuff. That's my favorite piece. That's your holy grail.
My
to
man.
me.
My man.
But one thing I want to say about Des that, you know, you look in sometimes in life, you know, everything doesn't work out perfectly in your journey in life. But I think along Des's journey, he's always had this, you know, chip on his shoulder, right? Even coming to UC and battling through adversity, and then with the draft day not going where he wanted to go in terms of the, you know, the order of the draft. And you could hear it in his voice when he did get drafted. And I love that. And I was telling my dad, like, Des is really upset, but that's going to fuel his fire. And I think he's going to have a lot of success because, and not to say he wouldn't if he was drafted higher and maybe in a position he thought he should go, but there's an edge. There's a chip now that I got to prove all these people that passed on me that they were wrong, and I'm going to do it. So I'm definitely excited to see what he does. And like you said, he's a great young man, and I think he's going to do very, very well. And with the success of Des and the success of Alex Pearson, just so many other players, you know, a lot of these young players around not only the greater Cincinnati area, our region, but the country are seeing this success, not only from a program standpoint, Keith, but an individual player standpoint. And that has helped out a tremendous amount with recruiting. And we saw a record day the other day with recruiting. Can you talk about, like, what happened in those 2 days? I mean, I think it was like 8 total recruits committed to the Bearcats. It was like every time I picked up Twitter, another guy, high level. It's like, what is going on? Can you kind of help everyone get their arms around what happened?
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is the time of year where coaches can get these recruits on campus and host camps and finally host some official visits and really, you know, sit down with these young men and chop it up with them, and then also get them on the field and work them out. And so if you're eyeing a prospect, if you're eyeing a recruit and he comes on your campus and you're like, wait, he's as advertised, you know, we're going to offer this kid now, you know. The funny thing is, when you get an offer from Cincinnati now, and this is what we've talked about, it holds a different weight, you know. So when a kid gets this offer, shoot, I might as well just commit now, because I've been waiting for this opportunity. Like, and I get to go to Cincinnati and I can achieve all of my goals right here. I don't have to wait for, you know, an Ohio State or you know, insert other quote unquote Power 5 program. I mean, it's just, and they're not done. Like, Luke Fickell and his staff, they've got camps all month of just where they're going to get players in and, you know, prick and prod them and interview them. And what Luke deserves a lot of credit. And I was talking, you know, Bob Huggins had an event last night and I was there talking to some people, and they all wanted to know, who's going to be the quarterback? Ben Bryant, Evan Prater, and who's looked good, and how does the, you know how that go. And but I was telling one gentleman there that Luke Fickell deserves a lot of credit in that he recruits a specific kind of player and a specific kind of person. And when you meet these football players, and I've interviewed the academic advisors and assistants and trainers, and all these guys are no sir, yes sir, no ma'am, yes ma'am. They look you in your eye, you know, they're respectful, they're humble, they're hard, like they all have a commonality about them, whether it's a humility, you know, but still a confidence. But he looks for a certain type of individual to build this program with, and it's been a specific, it's had a specific correlation to the success. I mean, all these guys that we're rattling off, Arian Beavers, Alec Pierce, Jerome Ford, Sauce. Sauce, you would think, for those who've never had an opportunity to meet him, you would think he'd have the biggest freaking ego of anybody ever. He's got the chain, he's got the name, he's got all the swag and all that.
The grill.
Dude, he is the most humble, hardworking dude. Looks you in your eyes, shakes your hand, respectful. Like, he's a different beast on the field, man. But when he's off that, he's just like an ordinary, 20 years old. And that's a credit to Luke Fickell and his staff. They look for a certain type. Does he fit what we're trying to do here? Is he going to be an issue? Is he going to be in the headlines doing bad things? Can we rely on him to be a good, upstanding citizen? And as we're doing community outreach projects and going out here and reading to elementary school kids, is that something that he's going to be interested in? And all of these things go into outside of playing on Saturdays and Friday nights, Thursday, whatever, the game, we play all damn week now, it seems like.
Right.
But Luke and his staff have a very specific mold that they're trying to fill when they're looking for a recruit. And it's not a coincidence that they've hit on so many of them. It's not a coincidence that so many of them have excelled academically. That's probably been the most impressive part is he's built this thing while also maintaining his core ethics and standards and, making sure that he's, this guy is, man, he's supremely talented, but he's got some questionable history and I don't know about his attitude and is he going to be a team player? And like sometimes, look, talent is talent. And if you got a lot of it, a lot of the other stuff just falls by the wayside. And Luke just like, nah, man, he's a family man first. He takes pride in that. That's a big part of how he recruits. And he wants someone that can truly be an extension of his family. And you look at all the relationships that he's built with these kids and, how respectful and honest all of these guys are. And that's a big part of what's happening here is just he's recruited a specific type of kid. And all of these kids have held true to that and have blossomed and stayed the course and bought in. And you don't have a lot of ego guys who are like, why am I not getting my touches? Why are my stats not what they should be? Myjai Sanders could have been like, why aren't you playing me the way that I should be played? And Luke had to tell him, look, man, you got to buy in. We need you to be in this role for this defense. The NFL will see that they can put you here. You can play this role up there, but here we need this from you. And Myjai's like, I got you. Like Nick Martiner, the Hawaii transfer put up monster numbers for Hawaii last year. I don't know if he'll do that here. And I told Nick that. I'm not sure if this offense, it could be, but I don't know what his role will be. And he's got a lot of receivers in front of him. And he told me, whatever Coach Fick asks of me, I'm down. Like whatever it is, I'll do it. And that's how all of this has worked out. That's, if you want to go elsewhere, cool. You can do that. But if you want to be a part of something special and be a part of something long lasting and something that will withstand the test of time and you will be remembered for doing something special while also getting good grades and performing well in the classroom and being a great citizen, you can do it here. And gosh, like, I don't know, like if there are any recruits listening, I'm working for Luke Fickell right now, right? But it's just, that's been a big part of it, man. And again, I keep talking about how impressive it has been to watch this, but every chance I get, and whenever something big happens and I have an opportunity to talk to Luke, I'm just like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I just need you to understand that this does not happen here. Like, yeah, we had a brief little run with Brian Kelly. And yeah, like, there's been Rick Menor and D'Antonio and others have had success, but this doesn't happen. And they're about to create a football-only facility. And like, what? And they're about to do some esports stuff, which is, all the money that this football team has generated is creating other avenues for other sports. And it's creating a machine that, hey man, it ain't going anywhere. Like, he's good, he's happy, he likes it here. The Big 12 money is coming. Like, this is something that is going to be here for a while.
You just said something. I want you to touch on it, because I do want to come back and mention some things about the culture Luke Fickell has in place right now. But how does what's going on with UC football impact all of UC athletics?
From a financial standpoint, at every school, maybe other than Duke or Kansas or, maybe, I don't even want to say Kentucky. Obviously, Kentucky's a basketball school, but their football team's coming on. But obviously, basketball's king there. But my point is that in a lot of schools, football is king, and it's what generates the money. And that hasn't been the case here. Here, the moneymaker has been basketball, and it's been that way for as long as you and I have been alive, right? That's changing. Now, look, Cincinnati's still very much a basketball school, and that's not going to change. But football has something to say about that right now. And, like, it's funny, in my role, the Bearcats beat used to be a two-person job. It's no longer a two-person job. It's mine, and I balance the two sports. And then anything else that goes on, women's basketball, baseball, whatever, everything else that I can get to, just to paint the fans a picture as far as, how come you don't cover baseball games all the time? Hey, it's just me.
Right.
But my point is that this is no longer a basketball beat. Like, this used to be, hey, man, anything that happens on the basketball front, you got to be on it. We may get to a football game here and there, but this is a basketball job. Nah, man, football is huge now, and this is very much, so football is creating other avenues, other resources for women's basketball, baseball, lacrosse, soccer. All of this money goes into not just football, but the athletic departments, which generates other opportunities. And look, when we're talking about the NIL opportunities, maybe companies and other opportunities who wouldn't be thinking about University of Cincinnati, hey, they know about University of Cincinnati right now. Why? Well, because Luke Fickell and what he's done, and the fact that they were just on the cusp of playoff stage. And wait a minute, Cincinnati's got something brewing over there. Well, that gives other athletes an opportunity to get some eyes on them. It's just like, let's just say, when you got a top-notch, you're a high schooler and you're playing against a top-notch high school team with the number one recruit in the country. Well, you know what I'm gonna do? These recruits in the crowd, they're here to watch him or her, but I'm gonna ball out today, and they're gonna know who I am, before they leave this game. And that's what's happening is the attention that Luke Fickell and his program have drawn. It's creating other opportunities and avenues for other players in every sport, financially, and every other opportunity. And when you talk to Coach Hurd, you talk to Wes Miller, and other coaches, they all say they're either inspired by what Luke Fickell has done. It's pushed them to be extra motivated to hold up their end. And look, we can't have a football program that's killing it, and I'm not. Wes Miller feels it. He has to get this thing going and going now, because Luke Fickell's got it going, and that's pressure in a good way. Like, you want everyone, and Coach Michelle Clark-Hurd, the women's coach, has said it. It's when game day came here, she was just like, how cool is that? Like, I tell my girls, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to create. So, yeah, man, it's doing a lot, not just for football, but all these other sports are definitely benefiting from this success for sure.
And I'll tell you a quick story to your point. I'm in Louisville a couple weekends ago, and I'm at the EYBL Nike basketball AU tournament. And a coach that I know comes over to me, and he says, hey, I want you to come over and watch our game. We've got a kid on the team that, the Bearcats are recruiting, a kid named Isaiah Evans, who's a 5-star.
Mhm.
And so the coach says, "Hey, would you come over here and watch them, and I'll introduce you to the kid and to the mom." I said, "Absolutely." So I go over there at about 12:30 to watch their game, and the kid's warming up, and I didn't want to bother the kid while he was warming up, Isaiah. But the coach comes over to me and says, "Hey, that's his mom over there. Go say hello." So I go over and I say, "Hey, my name is Alex. I played for the Bearcats." And she looks at me and she's like, "Football?" And I'm like, "No, I don't," because she thought I didn't look like a basketball player. But I said, "No, I played basketball there." She's like, "Oh, really?" She's like, "Yeah, the Bearcats are recruiting Isaiah." I said, "I know, I heard." And then she goes, "Can I ask you, what are the Bearcat fans like?" And I was like, "Well, why do you ask that?" She goes, "Because, Isaiah's being recruited by Tennessee and the Bearcats." And she goes, "Bearcat fans are all over Twitter.
Yeah.
They are crazy." And she goes, "We love it." And I said, "Yeah." I said, Bearcat fans love, getting on Twitter and talking to recruits and getting them to come and build that hype up. But I'm using that to say this. Her next statement I thought was very powerful. And she goes, "Well, I'm here to tell you, Isaiah and I can't wait to come to a Bearcat football game."
No doubt.
Because that's that's going to be a recruiting thing for him, before the basketball season starts. He's going to come to a football game. She goes, "We watched some of those games, and it seems like the football games are crazy." And so we start talking about that. She goes, "Yeah, I know the Tennessee games are crazy, and there's, 100,000 people. But think about that, Keith. He's being recruited by Tennessee and UC, and she's saying she can't wait to come to a UC football game." I mean, Tennessee football,
right,
obviously is big time, but when you look at, the SEC, it obviously doesn't match up to some of the upper tier teams in the SEC, but they were excited for. So if and Isaiah's a 5-star, if we end up landing Isaiah, football could have had a big impact on that.
It's huge, man, and that's the thing too. And you beat me to it because I was thinking about it as you were talking. A lot of these recruits, when do we first see them on campus? A lot of times in the football, they're right there on the sideline, right? They're watching, they're soaking in the crowd. They're in the student section, man. And when you talk, I remember the team last year. You talk to guys like Abdul Adu or just any of the other guys who were here for their first year. They're like, "Man, the football games are crazy." So it's almost more impressive when you look back and you think of what Bob did and building these massively successful teams and ultimately a great program during a time where, man, there's 3,000 people in that damn stadium for a football. He can't use that as a tool, right? He had to figure out some other stuff. So, man, I mean, it's contagious, man, and it's you can go to a basketball game and see 12,000 strong in that arena, but there's nothing like going to Nip at night. I remember Jerome Ford before he got here. He had said everyone was telling me about that stadium at night and how it was, and after he had his first experience, he had a really good game, and he came out afterwards and he's like, "Man, that was cool. That was really cool." And it's just this is special. Fans, those of you who are listening, just appreciate what is happening. This is truly something special that we're witnessing. And Wes Miller I know some fans were down on him after last year. I always tell fans, "Hey man, remember what he inherited. Remember where this thing started." But he has been a great coach. He's got a great staff, and I guess I'm segueing into another point. But he's working it, right. The recruiting trail, it's we can see it bubbling and turning around. And there's no doubt that Luke Fickell's in that program, the football program success, has had a direct impact on that, no doubt.
Yeah, and so two things I want to touch on when you talk about Luke Fickell and the kids that he's recruiting. I always think about this. One of my business mentors is a guy named Bob Colehep, who used to be the CEO and chairman of the board for the Cintas Corporation.
Okay.
Obviously, the Cintas Corporation is one of the biggest uniform suppliers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's an enormous company, and it started here in Cincinnati, right off of Ridge Road. They have one shop on Ridge Road, and now it's the biggest, or one of the top two, and the biggest in the world. And Mr. Coep and I became friends. He became my mentor. And I remember sitting in his office at their corporate headquarters in Mason, Ohio, and he told me, and this was early on in, kind of my business career, he said, I want you to take a class, and I'm going to pay for it. And they have a class at the Cintas corporate headquarters called Meticulous Hiring.
Okay.
And he goes, I want you to take this course, and then there's a book you get as part of the course, and it details out meticulous hiring. So I'm like, man, what is this? More school? Oh, man. So I go and take this course, Keith, and what I learned when I walked away from there is once you have an idea of what you want your culture to be, business, basketball program, whatever it might be, you have to look at not only who you hire, but who's working for you, and do they fit that culture? And when I think about Coach Fickell, what he's doing, not only with his staff, but with the players he's recruiting, it is meticulous hiring.
Yeah.
Looking, and you know what I learned in that class, in that meticulous hiring class? I mean, there was like, okay, this guy might be talented in the business world, but does he also check these other boxes? Because if he doesn't, that doesn't fit your culture, and you're going to bump heads. And that's what Coach Fickell's doing. And the other point I want to make, and I don't want this to come across the wrong way, and I know you will totally agree with this, and I'm going to try to lay this out as smooth as I can. Coach Fickell deserves all the credit for creating the culture that he's put in place. However, I do believe he gets too much credit for the recruiting, and not enough credit goes to his assistant coaches.
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
They deserve more. And I was telling a guy, Chris, just the other day, I was saying, in the landscape of college athletics, here's what happens. Your assistant coaches basically are pitching 8 innings. Luke Fickell comes in and he closes the game in the 9th.
Nice.
That's what happens. Am I right? Do you agree with that?
No doubt about it. You're no doubt about it. And like the funny thing too is when you look at the top classes, the top 2023 recruiting classes right now, I think the last time I checked, Cincinnati was ranked 6th in the country, right? They got the 6th best ranked 2023 recruiting class. Number 1, guess who that is? Notre Dame. And you know who the head coach is at Notre Dame? Marcus Freeman.
Marcus Freeman.
And look, Marcus Freeman deserves a hell of a lot of credit for what is happening here. And I hope fans don't take that the wrong way, but I don't think anyone would disagree. Like, what he was able to do to help Luke jumpstart this thing, Marcus is that personality that can get into a living room and that can, I sell water to a whale. Like, we can get into that, but like, that's who he is, man. And he's also he's not phony, or like some coaches will you almost feel slimy after talking to him because you just like, do you believe that? And Marcus is a genuine person. He's not going to say you're going to start here and become an All-American or be All-Conference. Look, you're going to fill a role, and if the best players will play, and blah, 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 blah. But it was Marcus who had a big impact in getting this thing going. And what Luke has done, okay, Marcus has left. All right. Luke does a great job of when he loses assistants, he figures out, okay, these are my strengths as a head coach. These are my weaknesses. I need to find assistants who are strong where I'm weak. That's Luke's biggest strength as a builder, as he's building his staff, is owning what he doesn't do well and finding the right guys who can do the things where he struggles. A lot of coaches have these huge egos and they don't want to admit, oh man, I'm not really good at this. Like, I'm great. I do everything great. I'm great. Nah, Luke had an experience at Ohio State when he was the interim head coach that was not good. And that helped him learn, okay, I can coach really well, but being a CEO of a company, a CEO of a program is different. And I have to find the right staffs and the right CFO and the right business manager and the right accountant and the right all of secretary and all of the I have to find the right people who can complement me and complement our mission. And that's what he's done, man. So he's found, everything just keeps rolling after season after season as these assistants move on to other opportunities, because he hires like-minded individuals who can do what he can't. And it's great, man. And like you said, it's meticulous. It's very, very
meticulous hiring. Yep. Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you the question you got asked yesterday. Who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Bearcats? Let's just go ahead and jump into it.
Yeah,
who's going to start game one?
It's hard to say. I mean, I'm guessing. I'm completely guessing. Heading into the fall, Evans got the edge only because, and again, this is my opinion, only because I think he outplayed Ben in the spring game. So, but look, Ben is a senior. Ben started last season. Ben's got experience. And again, I don't even, a lot of fans are saying, man, if Evan doesn't start, it's going to really hurt the program. He's a 4-star guy, a Mr. Football guy. If he's not the starter, he's going to enter that transfer portal, and all these other high-rated recruits are going to leave with him. First of all, has Luke Fickell not shown you that he knows exactly what he's doing? Right. Has he not shown you that he has the trust of his players? Has he not proven enough that whatever decision he ends up making is probably going to be the right one? When you wanted Ben Bryant to supplant Desmond Ridder as the starter, and Luke said, nah, number 9 special. We're going to ride with him, and he's going to show you all that he's got something. Well, he was right. So, look, it's close, and it's very much still a battle. And I wouldn't be shocked. When's the season over? September 3rd, I think, at Arkansas. He may not announce it until that day before or whenever that available. Hell, we may not know who the starter is until the ball's kicked off and they tried out for that first series. I mean, who knows? I mean, it may go down to that close because the two quarterbacks are very, very different. Ben is the better thrower, but Evan is the better athlete. And Ben's not a bad athlete by no means. But they both have a lot of work to do to be prepared for what's ahead. When you're replacing, I don't know, arguably the greatest quarterback in the history of the program. The only other guy who can claim that is Geno. And look, guess who else is going to make that decision on who the starter is? Geno. So trust these guys, man. Ben and Ben are close and they're competing. It's a friendly competition. They're pushing each other. Higher ground in August will be very interesting as they get their full complement of offensive linemen back. The full weapons are in camp, and we really get to see what this offense will look like. Corey Kiner will be there. We'll really get this. Someone's going to take the job. One of those guys is going to earn it, and I think fans just need to trust whatever the decision is, that it's going to be the right one. And I think honestly, I know you want a solid answer. It's just hard to give you that right now, but both of these guys, I think, will have earned it and will have deserving of the job. And both guys, I think, are fully capable, especially with the pieces that will be around them, to keep this thing going. So it'll be a fun camp, man. It'll be a fun camp.
Now, Bearcats losing so many key pieces. What's your prediction on this coming season?
Yeah, I mean, the schedule shakes out for them. I mean, they don't have, Arkansas is not great. It'll be tough to go into Arkansas, an SEC crowd and fan base and environment and grab a win out of there. You don't want to underestimate anybody, but it's not like Arkansas got it rolling either down there. But, I fully expect them to go into Arkansas and again, on a big stage, a nationally televised opportunity against a Power 5 opponent, to show that, hey, we're not just this little program over here in Southwest Ohio. Like, we got some things rolling. So when you look at the schedule, it shakes out in their favor. Now, there's always you want them to stay healthy, and there's always surprises. You didn't expect such and such team to play that well against you at home, or someone comes in a nipper, and like when Tulsa came in last year and almost beat them, you're like, whoa, what? But it's just and then the different part now with Cincinnati is they're every team's Super Bowl, right? Like, Cincinnati comes into town, or you go into Nipper Stadium, we got an opportunity to shock the world because all of this attention that's around the Bearcats. But I think with the interesting part with this team is you're losing Desmond Ridder, Kobe Bryant, Darian Beavers, Brian Cook, just these leaders, vocal leaders, leaders by example, who were able to weather the storm and keep guys even keel. Now, they still have leaders, no doubt about it, but that's the challenge of Luke, is making sure that, hey, I need my leaders to be leaders, so that when things aren't going quite well or not going as expected, like things did at Navy last year or like things did at Tulane last year, that we stay the course, not get too low or too high for that matter, and we just keep things rocking. And you got guys like Arquan Bush who will play that role, and even guys like Evan Prater and Ben Bryant, whoever starts, both of those guys will be leaders. But when you lose so many leaders, you want to make sure that next batch, Jabari Taylor, Will Huber, Josh Wiley, Leonard Taylor, these guys are like can assume those roles. But yeah, I mean, they're going to have another great season. They're going to have another double-digit win season. Are we going to the college football playoff again? I wouldn't say that, but it's going to be another impressive campaign for the Bearcats because they're still loaded with talent. They have great depth. Luke Fickell is still at the helm. The guys that are coming back, Arquan, Josh, Jabari, Renfro, I can go on and on and on. These guys are legit NFL talent, NFL caliber guys. Trey Tucker, Tyler Scott. These guys hear the talk, Cincinnati's about to fall off. They just lost 30 seniors and 12 NFL guys. Nah, they want to go out and show everybody that this train is not slowing down. And so I anticipate another great, successful, heavily competitive showing by them. And, they won't start the season probably in the top 10 like they did last year. But, again, I think they're going to show, hey, this wasn't just a one-hit wonder. We're now a program to be reckoned with, and they're going to show that again this year.
And I'm going to use that to segue into some basketball here in a second. But your last point I think is important. We've had success in the past watching UC football. The Brian Kelly, the D'Antonio. We've seen success, but this feels different because this feels like it's going to be long term, right? I think you felt with Brian Kelly like, oh, how long will he be here? He could be gone, then we've got to start over. And I think more and more people are seeing that Fickell, he has 2 feet down in this community. He's got 2 feet down at this university, and it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. And so I think a lot of fans, regardless of how the Bearcats do this season, I think people are buying into the process because they know this isn't a one-time deal. We're going to be there. And then going into the Big 12, watch out. You talk about recruiting getting even better. I totally could see that going into the Big 12. And I want to segue that into some Bearcat basketball talk, which is surprising, Keith. We haven't talked any hoops yet. So, and this is the Bearcat
We're a football
basketball
school now.
talk.
This is a football school.
So basketball, they've started workouts. And, you said something earlier about shooting around with Wes Miller, and he beat you in a shooting contest. He challenged me to one-on-one the other day.
Oh yeah.
And who? Yeah. I'm like, nah, man, I'm not playing you.
You're not gonna do it? Do it.
Huh?
Do it. Like, put some cameras up. Have some charities involved. Let's go.
See. Here's the difference, though. So, having a AAU basketball program and having 30 teams, over 300 and some kids. If Coach Miller beats me on video, I am getting roasted every day by kids on Instagram, Snapchat, because they trust me. They love to roast me if they get an opportunity. But no,
Wes, like, not to cut you off, but like Wes, he plays coy, and you got a nice jumper too. But that man, once he sees one go in, it's over. Like, and that's, every shooter is like that. But once you see one go in, and that's what Wes is. Wes will be like, man, I don't even got it today. Like, I can't even shoot today. And then he'll make 1 3, and that's it. It's over.
Yeah. I've seen him shoot, and Dermar Johnson Slim has told me, and Dermar still plays a lot.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, Wes can shoot, man. That's actually how Slim talks. Hey man, he can shoot, Meach.
Yeah.
He can shoot.
Yeah.
So, but no, I was with Wes at the fatherhood, the Talbert House Fatherhood event, and I want to give Wes a big shout out for coming over as my guest to attend that event. We raised $350,000 for down and out fathers to get rehabilitated and back with their families and being fathers. Wow. And yes, we talk about Des and you talk about your father, and this is an incredible program where, guys that either go to jail, substance abuse, just down and out, this program rehabilitates these guys and gets them back connected out of the court system. It's one of the most powerful programs in the world when it comes to fatherhood, the world. We raised $350,000 the other night, and Wes came over as my guest, and he shook hands with a lot of Bearcat fans, and a lot of people were saying to him, hey, how are you going to be this year? And Wes is a guy, as you know, and you've had many conversations with him. I think he's gonna get you excited. So he's gonna tell you the things to get you excited, but he's also gonna tell you the truth. He's not gonna give you some BS. And he looked at one of the fans and he goes, and he was coming. So everyone's in suit and ties, right? And he comes in shorts and a t-shirt. He's coming from workouts, right? Yeah. And he looks this fan in the eye and he goes, man, we are going to be better. And he just said it in a way that, like, we all felt it. Like, we felt it. Like, he was fresh off of doing workouts, and we really, really felt it. Now, I want to segue that into, you just did an article on Wes. And if you could talk about that article a little bit and your thoughts on where the program's headed.
Yeah, so, I took a little vacation for a couple of weeks, and shout out to Wes, too, because I went to Asheville, North Carolina for a little bit, which is a great town, by the way, and he had some recommendations. He's from North Carolina, so he had, man, you got to hit this spot. It's the best restaurant in North Carolina. So he had some really good recommendations for me.
Just like I gave you the pizza? Just like I gave you the pizza recommendation for Louisville?
Yep. And then, damn it, I went to Louisville and it wasn't open. I think they opened at like 5 p.m. and I had to get to Dez's party. And then I think the next day I wasn't able to. So anyway, I'm next time I'm in Louisville, I'm definitely going. But I tried.
Spinelli's pizza is amazing.
Shout out to Spinelli's.
For sure.
And it looks great. It's in a good location. Like I was excited, and then the doors wouldn't open. I'm like, wait, what? What's going on?
Yeah, they got that late crowd there, so.
Yeah, for sure. But no, so before I left for vacation, man, I chopped it up with Wes, and he is excited. He is. Last season was tough, and I know listeners. I don't need to, we don't need to get into it. We know it was a tough year. But he had to figure out a lot of things on the fly, and after the season the previous season, I think in some ways he may have overcorrected some things as far as he really wanted to be a fun, nice, positive guy, which is what he is, no doubt about it. But he really wanted to make sure that was a part of the program, because that wasn't what the program was when he inherited it, right? Like, you had 6 guys in the portal and a lot of influx and a lot of things were uncertain. And so talking to him, we spoke a lot off the record, and then finally we went on the record. And one thing I think fans need to understand, he's going to keep it 100 with you. Like, he is what I love about Wes is, like, some coaches, you talk to them off the record, and they'll tell you all the great stuff. And then the minute you turn the cameras on or the recorder on, and they just dumb everything down. And I'm like, why can't you tell me this stuff when I'm, And that's not Wes, He may curse a little less when the camera's on, but he'll keep it 100 with you. And I asked him about Mike Saunders Jr. and what happened there, and it's in the article. He talked about kind of what Mike wanted but what his thoughts were, and he was honest with him. He Mike wants starter minutes, and those just weren't going to be here. It wasn't like Mike, or it wasn't like Mike loved to be at Cincinnati. He wanted to be here, and Wes loved Mike and wanted him here. It's just, Mike wanted something more, and when you're starting to see where this program is trending, the level of recruits that are coming in, the level of interest that is starting to happen, look, this team is going to be better. I don't care if you're the best coach in the country. You need players. In no disrespect to the guys who were on the roster last year, but the talent is going to be better this season. So he should expect a better result because the mere talent is going to be better. And I think Wes needed to learn some things and to, these are where my shortcomings were last year. UNCG was great. Cincinnati's a different beast. I figured that out. I got it under my belt. Now I got it. I'm figuring this thing out. But he's got better players, more defined roles, and I think, and I talked about it in the story, David DeJulius won't have to do everything this upcoming season. He had to do everything.
It's a great point.
Everything. And then what ended up happening later on is every team figured out, well, David DeJulius has to do everything for them. If we can somehow take David DeJulius out or make it more difficult for him, we can beat Cincinnati. And that's exactly what started to happen. You didn't have anybody else who could create. And that won't be an issue this coming season. He's got creators. And that's going to take a lot of pressure off of David DeJulius. Now, a guy that has to take a leap is Jeremiah Davenport. And we talked about that, Wes and I, in the story. And the funny thing is when after they lost to Houston in the AAC tournament in Fort Worth, Kelvin Sampson sat down at the podium and he said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote, but he said, we knew Jeremiah Davenport wasn't going to be able to create his own shot. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And so I remember looking over at Justin Williams for The Athletic, and I said, if I'm Wes Miller, I'm playing that clip for Jeremiah all summer. Summer, and I am locking his behind in the gym, and I'm going to make sure that left hand is strong, and I'm going to make sure he can take guys off the dribble, and I'm going to make sure that his whole game isn't that damn three-point shot. I love Jeremiah. He's a great kid and a great player, but when you only got one trick in your bag, they're going to figure out how to stop that one trick. And if that one trick ain't falling and they can figure out, hey, if we can get Jeremiah off his spot early, he may disengage, and that's what was happening in some games, right? And again, this is no disrespect to JD. I love him. But I told Wes exactly that. Hey, did you hear that Kelvin said this? And he said, oh, I know. I said, did you share that with Jeremiah? Oh, he knows. so yeah, he's got good players coming in, right? He's got Landers is going to be a star here, okay? He had great moments at Memphis. Memphis got crowded. You get all these 5-star recruits there that Penny is bringing in. There's just only one basketball. And Landers kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit, and his role had to change there. Well, guess what? At Cincinnati, he can take on that more prominent role. And there's going to be a lot more playmaking, a lot more creating, a lot more fluidity with the offense. And then he's got length defensively at the perimeter, on the wing. And then you got, and I love Abdul and I love Hayden, but we needed more offensive production inside, man. You can't get 4 points a game from your 4 and 5 spots. You can't. I mean, look, those guys were great defensively, but then we need you to go on the other end and we just need help. I mean, if we could have got 8 points and 10 rebounds collectively from those positions, just think of how different that season would have been. You add 8 points to those final scores. So what he was able to do is get a guy in the Old Dominion transfer that I can't remember his name right now. Sorry, fans, but he's a guy who can put the ball in the basket. He's a very good defender, but also he's a hell of a rebounder. And that's what that's what Wes Miller talked about a lot last season is we just don't have that NBA quality rebounder that can create extra possessions for us. We just don't have that guy.
You're talking about Kalu.
Yeah,
I believe
Kalu.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So having him changes things, one, because he can put the ball in the basket. And look, he's not going to be Kenyon Martin, right? He's not going to be Jason Maxiell, but he's going to be a guy like an undersized Eric Hicks type that's going to just give you quality minutes, give you –
great comparison.
I mean, he may give you, let's just say 10 and 8, right? Like, oh, my gosh.
Better than last year.
How big would 10 and 8 be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing.
Especially when, if you really look at it, if you go back to the UNCG days and what Wes Miller did, a lot of things offensively were predicated off of throwing the ball to the post first and foremost.
Yes.
He would start his offense off of throwing it to the post. Not that everything was post, everything had to be a post move and then go score, but when you throw it to the post, and you got a guy that legitimately can turn right or left shoulder or just attempt to score, you get double downs, which leaves shooters open. You get guys that cut off of that. So many things come out of that. And now it looks like, and we'll see coming up soon when the game start, but looks like you got guys you can throw it to in the post.
He said that exact same thing. He's like, at Greensboro, we played inside out. Offensively, that was our game. And we couldn't do that. I mean, it was, hey, David, can you just figure something out, and then we'll figure it out from there. You know what I mean? Like, we all watch it. I'm not being mean. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not, throwing any shade. Like, we watched the games, and David had a lot of pressure on him to score the ball, create for other guys. And look, Luke, we talk so much football. I keep saying Luke. Wes was very honest with me about. He had some conversations with Shuey. Like, one, your minutes may not be the same this coming season. If you're cool with that, cool. If you're not, you might want to go elsewhere. Shuey was like, no, I get that. I want to continue to build something here. He was like, cool. They were on the same page. And then, Wes is like, we're going to need you to knock down that shot. You had good looks last year. You didn't fall. We're going to need you to be more of a playmaker when you're in that game. We're going to need you to create for other guys. Shuey is going to take on that challenge. We'll see how he responds. Jeremiah, Wes has challenged him. Jeremiah was second team all conference heading into last season. He had his up and downs and he had great moments, but he wasn't that consistent player that we envisioned him to be. He's going to have to take that leap, and Wes has challenged him to do that. And so, and we got guys who can straight up fill it. We Skillings and Reed, and these young kids, they can go. And then we got some great transfers. So it's going to be better, like Wes said. It is going to be better. Are we going to be a tournament team? Who knows, right? But I think Wes is thinking, just like Luke Fickell is thinking, I'm not only preparing for Houston and Memphis, I'm preparing for Baylor. I'm preparing for Iowa State. I'm preparing for Kansas. I'm preparing for the Big 12. And that's how these guys are recruiting. That's how these guys are preparing. They want these guys prepared for a higher level of competition that is right around the corner. It's big picture time, guys. Yeah, we want to win today. We want to win tomorrow too. We want to win next year too. And so fans should be excited. And it's not false hope. You wanted to see things change. You wanted to see an improvement. And yes, it's early and they just got on campus, but you're seeing the recruiting change. You're seeing some momentum. You're seeing Rayvon. Yeah. You're seeing other guys. Wait, he's got UC in his top 5? What? So it's happening. Just be patient. And I know that doesn't exist with fans. I get it. I understand. But it's happening. Give him time. He's a great coach, a great recruiter. Chad Dollar, Andre Morgan, Chris, Roberts. He's got a good group of staff that knows exactly what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time. They know what you guys want. They know the history and the legacy of this program, and they want to uphold it. Give them some time. They're going to do it.
And I'm glad you just said that because, if you think about UC basketball and you think of what made UC basketball so important, specifically with the Hugs days of, just being tough, pressure, and through the years, Hugs' teams threw it to the post. Kenyon, Maxio, Danny Fortson. But also what I'm most excited about for this coming year and also the future is Wes really wants to get out there and pressure the basketball full court.
Yeah. Yep.
And we didn't really get to see that last year because, no offense to some of the guys on the team, they just couldn't guard full court.
Yeah.
Jeremiah is slow of foot defensively. Mason Madsen, slow of foot defensively in a full court situation. Mikey sometimes gambled. So, it was tough for them to pressure full court. So think about Wes Miller is basically coaching a totally different game than what he's used to.
Yep.
Like, that's the real – it's like he coached totally – like you said, hey, David, Julie, just go do some stuff and we'll figure it out. And then we can't really press because of these guys. So I'm most excited about the pressure, that we're going to see. And by the way, too, I want to say this real quick before I forget. And I'm sure you've heard, or I don't know if you know all the details, but Odie's father passed away.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Odie's father passed away, and I think a bunch of the guys and the coaching staff went down to the funeral in North Carolina. Yeah, I think Odie's dad took him back to Nigeria to visit kind of, the roots, and his dad was slowly dying of cancer, I believe. I'm not sure if it was, I think it happened a little sooner than they thought, but, sad to see. But the great thing for Odie is, man, he's got a great support system there with the Bearcats and the staff, so he's in good hands. So the other thing I want to talk about, and you mentioned this before, from a recruiting standpoint, Wes has brought in all these new guys, but as you talk about that forecasting for the Big 12 and the recruiting for that, one of the big pickups that I want to take a deep dive into, landing Rayvon Griffith, I think, reminds me of landing Yancey Gates. Here's why. Yancey Gates was one of the top players, obviously, in our area, one of the top players in the country. The similarity to me is Yancey he helped lead to getting other players as well.
Yeah.
As good of a player as Yancey is, he helped get other guys to come here. Rayvon's the same way. Like, we've got a great player in Rayvon, but Rayvon is closely tied to Isaiah Collier.
Yep.
He's closely tied to Tyler McKinley. And I could go on, and those are all guys that they're trying to land. So you land, it's chess, right? You land one piece to help, you know what I mean? You make one move to get another move. So the impact of Rayvon, I think, is way bigger than people are giving him a lot of hype for landing Rayvon, but I think he's an important piece moving forward in recruiting for Wes.
He's a domino,
Yeah.
We just got to get that one. We just got to get that one. Like you said, you get that one. Okay, we got him. now the others will fall. But you just got to get that one, and it's important. Look, Wes can't talk about him because he's not allowed yet until he's officially, signed and sealed and delivered. But if you get Wes in a room and there's no cameras on, and everything is, we can just talk privately. Rayvon was the priority when he got here. Mm-hmm. That was the priority. He's a hometown kid. He's a hooper. He's a baller. We need to prioritize the hoopers and the ballers who are right here first. We needed to try to figure out how to get Tari Eason, and we had to get, Mikey out of the portal and get Mason out of the portal and and try to figure out how to fill out the rest of this roster because I think he had freaking 4 guys on the roster or whatever it was when he got here. But Rayvon was that was the priority. And, he got here and knew it, and he got him. And now he will, but and it's like what Luke does. Like, you get one, and all these guys, are on the same, whether they're the AAU team with basketball, they're on the same travel teams and summer camps and 7-on-7 teams and football. Like, you get one of these guys, oh, I'm going to bring my boy with me. Oh, I'm coming. Yep. I'm going to bring him. I'm going to get him too. We all coming. And that's what's going to happen with Cincinnati. It's happened with Cincinnati football. It's going to happen with Cincinnati basketball. Rayvon is a guy, we can talk about his high basketball IQ and just his skill on the basketball court all day long. But when you see a guy of his caliber buy in, because he could say, nah, Cincinnati ain't it. And that's my hometown. I got family, but Cincinnati ain't it. So I'm going to go ahead and take my behind to Kansas or wherever. But when he says, nah, man, I believe in Wes Miller. I believe that this is where I need to be. I believe that we can do something special here right in my hometown. That says a lot, man. That says a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's like I said earlier, man, it is a domino effect, and he is only going to create more and more, it's like he's Wes's lead blocker now on the recruiting trail. All right, I got you, Wes. I done cleared this path. Go ahead and get the first down. And there it is, so yeah, man.
Hey, and I'm glad you said that, because do you know the first time that Rayvon was on campus with the staff was the UC football game.
Football. Yep. It's huge, man. It's huge, bro. It's huge, man.
No question.
It's exciting, man. It's happening. Luke's got it. Wes understands. And the funny thing, too, and I told somebody this last night, I said, one of the best things that happened to Cincinnati is North Carolina basketball and what they just did with Hubert Davis.
Yeah.
If Hubert Davis hadn't figured it out, they were going to come and get Wes. They were like, Hubert, I don't think this worked out, bro. We're going to go ahead and get number 2, because Wes was their number 2. Hubert got that job, but Wes was the second man for that job. And I don't think Hubert's going anywhere. So Wes knows that. So Wes is like, all right, I'm 2 feet in. Let's get it. This is where I'm at. It's time to go. And you see it. You see exactly what's happening. Wes is dug in. He's committed. And he's ready to get this thing going.
It's funny, when we were at that Talbot House event I was telling you about, I was talking with Wes, and he said, hey, why don't you come on over to some of the team workouts we have going on? I said, yeah, I got to get over there. I'm in the middle of AAU, and then I got to go on a vacation at some point. And he's like, vacation? What's that? Because college athletics is 24/7, and he goes, he's canceled 3 trips. And I was like, you canceled 3, vacation trips.
Yep.
And he says, well, it's not like what you think it is. He was like, it's not because I'm, so busy. He was like, well, I had all these trips planned in North Carolina to go back. Mm-hmm. He's like, I canceled them. And I'm like, why? He goes, well, I'm in Cincinnati now. Mm-hmm. He's like, if I keep going back to North Carolina, he's like, I gotta be in Cincinnati. I can go take a trip somewhere, but I'm a Cincinnati guy now. I live here. And I thought that was and he's saying this to me. He's not saying this to a random fan or just somebody. I mean, this is real talk. He's saying to me. He's like, I canceled all 3 of the trips. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty telling right there. And one question real quick before I do want to jump into the Hugs event that you went to last night, talk a little bit about that. But I think one thing that we're going to have a totally separate podcast on at some point, and that is the impact of NIL on UC athletics, football and basketball, and how UC have to have a plan in place moving forward. I'm sure they're working on this, but for Fickle and West to continue this high-level recruiting, because the NIL stuff is real. And I'll give you a quick story. When I'm playing for UC and we've got all these recruits coming in, for a lot of these recruits it was like, oh, you guys are Jordan, I'm getting plenty of shoes, you guys are redoing the locker room, blah, blah, blah. So it was like about all this other stuff, right? And you started seeing a trend happening of, building a new weight room, a super locker room with video game rooms and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. And really, if you start to look at it moving forward, if I'm a head coach, I start looking at things like, do we really need to spend money on some of those other things when these players really just want NIL deals more than they do a sexy locker room? And that's real. Yeah. That's something that they have to start looking at moving forward of what's going to be. Of course, you want to make upgrades with different things, and you want your program to be up to par because you're in the Big 12, but you have to take a hard look at the NIL and the plan going forward. Yeah,
it's man, it's crazy, and I love that. It's funny because it's like there's so much I want to say, and look, yeah, I love that these student athletes are able to make some money off of their name, image, and likeness. I think it was overdue, and I'm glad that it's finally a thing. There's some dangerous things that are happening right now, and I don't really want to get into it. Just we don't have to, but just in you heard
back and
forth Ohio
with
State's coach say the other day he needed $13 million to keep this thing afloat.
Oh yeah,
and it's just you do the math and you're like, well, that breaks down to X amount of dollars per starter. And, you see what other programs are doing who typically wouldn't be at the top of some of these rankings, but they have deep pockets. And now the NCAA, they're a joke. And I'm not even trying to, they are. They're a joke. But they're trying to figure out how to keep boosters from getting involved with this stuff and keeping this from becoming a really dirty thing. Look, man, the floodgates are open. Y'all should have been ahead of this thing a long time ago. But look, Wes and I have had some conversations about it, and I won't share some of those. But look, he's ahead of it. Luke, John Cunningham, Wes Miller, even Michelle Clark-Hurd and others, they're literally devising plans as you and I talk. UC football has his job is to go out there and get on NIL deals. I won't speak specifically who he is yet because they haven't released that, but it will. It's not a secret. It's just once they figure out how they want to bring it out, they will. But they have a guy who Luke brought from Ohio State. His job is to be the director of NIL and to figure out how to get these guys paid, how to create opportunities where these guys can make money off of what they're doing on the field. And that's huge. And it has to be a part of your plan now. As big as the transfer portal is, that's new. Well, that's now a huge priority. It's not just, recruiting high school kids. We got to get in this portal and figure out how to get those guys. But every school is trying to figure out how to get ahead of this thing, how to capitalize off of it, how to stay, in front of the game and not be behind it and continue to compete. Cincinnati's no different, especially as they're entering the Big 12. But there are a lot of resources around this city, a lot of opportunities, a lot of local businesses who are huge supporters of the program, huge fans. You got other entities that are just clamoring to be able to provide opportunities for these young men and young women. And I think that's a big opportunity for Cincinnati. I look at a city like Memphis, and they've got, great opportunities like FedEx and, great built-in opportunities where they can be a player in the NIL space just from the resources they have in their own city. You look at a school like Texas A&M, who's got oil money in that region and all these other resources that are just built-in NIL opportunities. And I think Cincinnati is a space, too. You look at how we have these great, big local companies who are billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar, organizations who can create opportunities for these young men and young women. And I think that's going to pay big dividends for Cincinnati this year, next year, 2 years from now, and in the future, of just being a player in this space where, look, some schools, they won't be able to play with these big boys and say, we can't offer you that. We can't offer you that opportunity. Cincinnati has opportunities here that can really, create some room there. And it's exciting, man. Like, I'm excited for these opportunities. I talked to David DeJulius about some NIL opportunities that he's got going on. One of the reasons why he decided to stay another year is being able to capitalize on this and being able to, make some money and send some money back home to his folks. And I mean, I think that's what it's about. Like, I think it needs to. We don't want it to turn into a pay-for-play thing, and I think that's where that's the dangerous part of it. But look, I know that it's important, and let's just talk about Luke Fickell and Wes Miller specifically, because there are two high-profile programs. They both have morals and ethics and beliefs and certain lines that they don't want to cross, and they haven't done it yet. They've gotten these 4-star commitments for Luke Fickell and high 3-star. We got, really high-level commitments and interests from Wes Miller and transfers who have come in, and both of these guys have not crossed lines that they have drawn for themselves. And I like that. I think that's important. And I think if I'm a parent, if I am a father of a 17-year-old 4- or 5-star caliber player, and I see that my head coach has these morals and ethics and beliefs and can still put my son in a position, or a young lady, for Michelle Clark-Hurd and others, in a position to succeed and reach his goals, not only professionally as an athlete, but professionally in the real world and work world beyond athletics, that's what it's about. And we're off to a good start seeing Luke Fickell and Wes navigate this NIL space. But, yeah, it's interesting. And John Cunningham and Cincinnati are really working hard to stay ahead of this thing and to create great opportunities for these student athletes, and you love to see it.
And here's what I want to do. In the future here, I want to get a round table, me, you, and maybe get another guy, maybe even a former player, and sit down and talk about this NIL and the portal and how it's impacting moving forward. Because I know you got a lot more that you want to talk about in regards to the NIL and the portal. So, I think it's a fascinating discussion right now.
It is, for sure.
I mean, people think the portal's going to go away, and I'm like, it ain't going nowhere. And, it ain't going anywhere. So, hey, the last three things, and we kind of make these quick topics here, but I want to talk about the Hugs event you went to. I want to jump into a quick music topic and a shoe thing. So the Hugs event last night, how was it?
Great, man. For those who don't know, Hugs lost his mom to cancer when he was the head coach here. And every year in West Virginia, he does this big fish fry where he raises millions of dollars for cancer research and cancer treatment. And they're going to build this big cancer center at West Virginia, and they're going to have the Norma Mae Huggins wing at this hospital in, obviously, remembrance of his mother and the work that Bob has done. But that has been his passion outside of basketball, is just generating funding for this disease that is, that has impacted all of us, right? I mean, we've all in some way or another have, been impacted by cancer. So for the second year in a row, he came to Cincinnati and had an event at Montgomery Inn, the original one out in Montgomery. and just to raise money and awareness for cancer research and the whole mission that he's got going on. And it was fun. It was a lot of the big movers and shakers of the city there in that room, and just an opportunity for fellowship and ultimately just to raise some money. But of course, Bob had some jokes, and he was a little more. He was on one last year. Like it was the first time he was back in Cincinnati for this particular event. A lot of former players were in the room, and it was honestly it was a little more subdued last night than it was a year ago. Maybe because last year was the inaugural in Cincinnati event. So Bob had some interesting jokes last year. Last night was a little more tame. He was still classic Bob in a lot of ways. But nah, man, it was fun to catch up with him. I sat down with him. Actually, when I'm done speaking with you, I'll write this story. But I asked Bob, I had a few pressing questions. And Bob and I have a great relationship. I've known Bob since I was 7, 8 years old. And I asked Bob, last time you and I were face-to-face, you were not in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. That call hadn't come yet. It's come since you and I were able to sit down. I think, how does that feel? And he was able to express to me how that feels for him, how he found out where he was when he got that call, the people who have reached out to him since then, the former players, the people who will induct him into the Hall every year. Whoever is inducted into the Hall of Fame, you need to have a living member of the Hall of Fame induct you. And so Bob told me a list of names that he had, and he reached out to that list of people, and all of these people who are current Hall of Famers said, Bob, of course, I got you. So, we'll talk about, those names in my story. What else did I ask Bob about? I asked him, a year ago, I asked him, Coach K had just announced that he was retiring. Roy Williams had just announced that he was stepping down. And I said, Bob, hey, you're getting up there, man. Like, are you there as well? And he's like, don't you put me in that list with those guys. I'm much younger than those guys. And so this year I said, all right, well, we're a year older. And, are you any closer to calling this thing a career? And he had a great answer, and I'll put it in the story. But I think I will say that West Virginia did not have a great year last year as far as wins and losses. And that's something that really bothers Bob. Like, when he goes out, he's going to go out on top. He ain't going to go out like, I'm just dragging along, and I'm just waving my hand to the crowd and, playing a position and going through the motions. No, he's going out a winner. That's important for him. I did talk to him about no, he brought it up on his own. And when I asked him that question, he said one of the things that still bothers him is how things ended at Cincinnati. And we don't have to get into it. We all know the story. But he still wishes he had an opportunity to turn things around. He didn't want that to be the final vision of him, right? And so that's something, as far as it relates to when he'll end it, he wants to make sure that he ends things the right way at West Virginia. They're winning, the program's in good shape. So when he leaves and whoever assumes that position after him, the program can continue to flourish and keep going. So he and I talked about that. And then I asked him, he's going to play Xavier this year. That's a good game. So I asked Bob about having the opportunity to play Xavier, and we talked about that. And I also asked him about assuming you'll still be in the Big 12, when Cincinnati finally makes that move, West Virginia and Cincinnati will be on the schedule. Are you looking forward to that? And he had a good response to that one. So
I'm sure he did.
So I'm honestly, like, as soon as I get off the phone with you, I'll write it and I'll put it out. And I'm just I don't want to spoil all the beans, man. But like, Bob he seems to be in a really good space. He's happy, and obviously when he's back here in Cincinnati, his second home, he's surrounded by friends and close family, and his wife was there last night. His daughters were there.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
and of course his good friend DJ Dennis Jansen, former WKRC WCPO anchor. He was there to MC the whole thing and navigate the night. So it was a good night, a lot of positive energy, a lot of positive vibes. Bob was in good spirits. He seems to be in good health. You know, it's funny. I joked Wes Miller wasn't there last night, and I joked how involved Wes Miller was that night a year ago. And I was like, yeah, no, Wes doesn't need that night anymore. He's solidified.
Yep.
But also he's pretty damn busy now. It was a joke, but yeah, it was a really it was more of an intimate crowd last night. It was still a good showing for sure, but it was good to catch up with Bob, and he had a lot of great things to say. So you know, it's always great to catch. We of course, you know, Cincinnati loves Bob and what he was able to do for this program and that athletic department as a whole. So whenever he's able to make it back to the city, I got to pull up.
Yeah, no question. It's always great to have Hugs back in town. It's going to be great to have him playing Xavier, and it's going to be odd seeing so many former Bearcat players at the Cintas rooting for Hugs, wearing blue and gold.
Yeah,
there'll be a lot. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting dynamic there. But then also when he ends up coming back to the Fifth Third Arena in Big 12, so that's going to be fun. But hey, I want to jump into a little music talk. We can't do a podcast and just breeze by music. We've got to talk about music. But I did a interview with Mamadou Diarra recently, and it was one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done. But he said something in the interview that just really stuck with me. So I don't know if you know this, but Mamadou dabbles in producing music. Did you know this?
I did not.
So he makes beats, you know, like there's a lot of people that make hip-hop beats. He's one of them. And he told me during the pandemic that he made a ton of beats, and a lot of his teammates came over and made songs. So Jeremiah Davenport has a song.
Oh, yeah?
Jaron Cumberland has a song. I'm not sure if that's a diss song to John Brannon, but like an Ether takeover to John Brannon. So all these guys have like songs, and I'm like, Mama, do you still have these? He goes, oh yeah. I'm like, man, I've got to get my hands on these songs.
Yeah.
That's gonna be something. I said, whatever you do, don't lose those, because maybe you can't release them now, but years from now, you've got to release those. But so that's kind of my segue into our music talk. And you called me sometime this year, and we were talking about J. Cole. And you know, J. Cole is back again, trying out hoops. He's playing. I don't know what team he's playing on or what league it is. Do you know? I'm not even sure.
I can't remember the team, but Drake's got a league, and so he's a member of a team that's in Drake. Drake started a basketball league. Drake got so much money, but he's got his own league up there in Canada, and J. Cole is a part of it. So I can't remember the team, but yeah, J. Cole pulled up, and he's a member of a team in that league.
He's a hooper, and
he played at St. John's, right? Like, I mean, it didn't pan out, but like he was a hooper. Like, and J. Cole's like what, 6'4", 6'5"? Like, he can hoop.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you my J. Cole story?
I don't remember. I'm here.
So I met J. Cole. So when NKU opened up the Bank of Kentucky Arena, the first event they had in there was Jay-Z's Blueprint 3 tour.
Okay.
That was the first thing that opened it up. So I contacted the guy who was running the Bank of Kentucky, who I actually knew, and I said, hey, I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. Can you get me tickets? And he was like, I'll get you tickets, but he's like, I need one favor in return. He's like, my son is a huge Bearcat fan. Can you get him like autographed basketball and some things from the Bearcat basketball team? And I said, done. That's easy. I'll get a pair of shoes from one of the players signed. He was like, oh, really? So I got him all this stuff signed. So come time for the Jay-Z concert, he doesn't tell me where my seats are. So he just texted me and said, hey, the tickets are in will call. You have 4. And I was like, great. So we get to will call. So 2 of my buddies go with me, so it's 3 of us. 1 ticket I didn't use because my one friend decided he was going to go somewhere with his girlfriend. He didn't want to come to the concert because he thought we were going to have shitty seats. True story.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So we get there, and the lady hands me the tickets at will call. She's like, oh, you must know somebody. And I'm like, what? So I look at the ticket, and it just had zeros all over it. So we get down there. So it's my buddy Jamal and Matt. We get down there. We are front row, like right on the stage, like right where I could reach and touch the stage. Well, come to find out later, Jay-Z turned in his tickets because he had no family coming. Those were Jay-Z's 4 tickets.
Whoa,
so,
nice.
And they're right next to. I could literally walk out of my seat and walk backstage. So my friend Matt is in the one seat. Jamal's in the next. I'm in the next one. And the seat to my left, which is like right to the aisleway to the backstage, no one's sitting there because my other buddy didn't go. So we're standing there. Pharrell Williams performs with the Nerds. And then this guy comes up and he stands next to me and he goes, hey, is anybody sitting here? You mind if I sit here for a minute? And I'm like, no, you're cool. You can sit there for a second. I don't have anybody here. And then I turn back and look at him. I'm like, man, you look familiar. Did you play basketball? He was like, I did. And I was like, oh, so we just start talking about hoops. And then I start looking at him. I'm like, wait a minute. I think I saw you on like some show. Do you rap? He was like, yeah, my name's J. Cole. And I'm like, this is before he was. Remember, he was on the Blueprint 3 album. He was on Stars Born.
Yep.
Nobody, and I really wasn't hip to him. So, man, we talked about basketball, and he just was like, and I told him, I said, I played for Cincinnati, and Jamal here played for the Bearcats as well. So, and we chopped it up, talked about basketball forever. So, anyway, so finally he goes, hey, man, thanks for letting me sit here, man. I just wanted to kind of absorb the show from this angle, man. I got to go. I'll see you. And I was like, all right, man, see you. So he like leaves. I don't pay any attention. Man, Jay-Z comes out and performs, and about 3 songs into it, he brings J. Cole out for Stars Born. And everybody that was around us just starts looking at us like, you know him? I'm like, like, he just pulled up. So, yeah, and when I tell you he's a hooper, like, we were talking about, like, really talking about hoop. Like, just the intricate parts of it, the game. That's my J. Cole story, man. It was... And it turns out I say, Jay-Z obviously is my favorite rapper, but I put J. Cole up there as, my top guy in this new generation of hip hop. Yeah,
I've always said it's him and Kendrick, like I guess the Holy Trinity, if you will, excuse that term, but it's Cole, Kendrick, and Drake. I mean, those are the 3 kings of this. Maybe not this generation, but that middle generation between the Jay-Z, Nas, DMX, those guys, and I don't know I'm 30 plus, but whoever and I was telling somebody, not to go on a tangent, but like the thing was going on with Young Thug and Gunna right now, and what they got going on legally, and the racketeering and the RICO charge, whatever. We don't have to get into that. But my point is that to some respects, they are this generation's Jay and Nas and Kendrick and Cole and like they are, I respect their grind and what they've been able to accomplish musically, the other stuff, whatever. But my point is like, just imagine if Jay-Z and Nas got arrested for RICO charges at their prime of their careers when they're the number 1 artists in the, you know what I mean? Like, that younger generation, Young Thug and Gunna and 21 Savage and like that's their, not looping 21 Savage with those 2, but they are huge for that younger generation. But yeah, I met Cole once too before, and he's a really dope dude. I met him backstage at and that was that theater called at Madison Square now. I think it's the Hulu Theater now, but it changes names depending on whoever cuts a check, right? But I think it's the Hulu Theater. But yeah, when he was doing the Dollar and a Dream tour, early on, like this was about the time when the Cold World, the Sideline Story, the debut album came out. It was either right after that or right before it. He had a show, and I was backstage for that. And,
wait a minute, where was this? Where was this at?
New York, New York City.
New York City. Okay.
I was living in
I
was at ESPN at the time, living in Connecticut, and so I would go to New York all the time. And I remember being back, and he was just a really humble cat. And then again, this was years ago, and he wasn't. We knew J. Cole. I mean, he had made some appearances. This was after the Blueprint 3, so we knew him, but he wasn't J. Cole yet. Like he was doing the Dollar and a Dream tour where he was literally charging people $1 to get in. And so, so we went to the show. A friend of mine, an ex-girlfriend of mine, and she worked for Columbia Records, so she knew a lot of people in the industry. And so anyway, we were backstage, just chopping it up, and I was able to meet him, and just a really humble dude. And look, man, I've been in this business so long. You happen to just meet famous people or some of your heroes, and when it happens, you just pray that they're cool. Like
right.
I don't want to throw anybody on the bus on this podcast right now, but I remember meeting someone, and I grew up like just rooting for this person, and we can get into it later. I don't want to do it right now, but like I just remember meeting him, and I'm like, damn, you're not nice. And then it's like it broke my heart a little bit. But nah, man, this is I don't know what you asked me, Cole. Yeah, Cole, man, Cole is it, man. Cole is. I'm still listening to the Dreamville mixtape that they just released. So, and the features, he is undefeated on features right now. And
there's nobody touching his features this year. I mean, between London, Johnny P's Caddy, Stick.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You called me. I think it was maybe after the London track had come out, and you were like, "Is he really rapping in a British accent?" Like,
yeah. And then I called you. I'm pretty sure I called you after I heard Jay-Z's feature on the Pusha T song.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jay-Z is 52 years old, and he still rap better than everybody. He's
crazy.
Fine wine, bro. Fine wine.
He definitely is fine wine, and the way that Jay-Z can still. What I love about Jay-Z is he can still find a way to, rap like he did back in the day and not lose any of that, but still have a little bit of the new age to him, but without trying to be the 50-year-old dude with oversized hat, do-rag, trying to be too much like this generation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Which I think is what happens with Kanye. I think Kanye tries to be so much into this generation. To me, it's just too much. I just think it's too much. Whereas Jay-Z just has a unique, I think, great balance. And I love that. But what I wanted to ask you about, and it's a two-parter, is one, your thoughts on Kendrick Lamar's album, and then I want to talk about when he released the video that led to the album, The Heart Part 5. What were your thoughts on the album?
Okay, so I love Kendrick so much. Like, again, he and Cole to me are like, they're it. Like they are the current gods, current kings. The hip hop culture is theirs. Like they are the standard bearers. I mean, Jay-Z and Nas and others they're already solidified. Like they chilling. Like they ain't got nothing to prove anymore. But just but yeah, it's just great every time Kendrick drops. He doesn't do what everyone else is doing. He follows his own path, and it's almost like I remember watching an interview years ago, and Missy and Timbaland were saying how they lock themselves in the studio, like when they're creating music, and they don't listen to anything else. They don't want to be influenced by other works. They want to create what they want to create. And I feel like Kendrick does that, and I really appreciate every time he just pushes the envelope artistically, sonically. His flows are always different. I love how he changes his voice on a single song where it may sound like there are 3 or 4 rappers on one joint.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of Kendrick. Again, I don't like the Kodak Black stuff, but I did appreciate the album. I love Pusha T's album. I felt there was no wasted song, not a wasted beat, no wasted line, bar. So it's just refreshing. Hip hop is a tricky art form, and we talked about it with Jay-Z. It's such a young genre, in the broad scheme of things, that literally we don't know how to grow old in it. Like, Jay-Z, he's growing, he's maturing within the genre of hip hop,
which is the first I think we've ever seen.
Right, like a guy like Fat Joe is another guy that's figuring out how to maneuver in a space of, still putting out dope music without sounding like an older guy trying to be young.
Yep.
And like 444 is an album that changed the game because it was massively successful. It still sounded new and fresh and hip with mature topics and without trying to sound like, all right, I'm trying to sound like I'm 25 when I'm 48 or whatever Jay-Z was when he dropped that. So yeah, man, it's cool to see older guys putting out quality work, and they're featuring younger artists. Don Toliver was on that joint. Lil Uzi Vert was on that Pusha T album. So I do like when the older guys mix with the newer guys. I appreciate, pulling them back and trying to stay connected with that young generation. Lil Wayne birthed a lot of these cats, right? And he still does songs with some of these young artists. So I do appreciate, if Kodak Black wasn't such an asshole, sorry, but I wouldn't mind like the look. I just don't dig what he stands for on a personal tip.
Yeah.
Like 21 Savage, I don't know these cats, but like I may not think 21 Savage is the greatest rapper, but I don't know him like moral, but he isn't known for doing some of the stuff, or at least saying some of the stuff that Kodak Black has said. But again, no one's perfect, and I'm not trying to paint myself as being holier than thou, and I've definitely made my mistakes. But in order for me to stand next to you, I need us to be on the same moral plane, at least to some sort of, if I'm gonna put my brand next to yours, I can't really rock with you if you into some other shit. So,
we're gonna do the Keith Jenkins Kodak Black podcast, man.
My God, I'd love to chop it up. I'd love to interview Kodak Black. I got questions. I know you and I talked about Drink Champs and Nori, and I love that platform because it gives some artists, from our generation, and then some artists from the younger generation. That's maybe the generation of the Coles, and like A$AP Rocky was on there the other day. Had a lot of great things to say, and I know you kind of want a legit journalist, as dope as Nori is on that show. But yeah, man, I'm a big fan of hip hop, obviously, and to hear the recent albums that have dropped, it's my ears have had a great summer.
Yeah, and it's been great, man. The evolution of hip hop music. I mean, you think about when hip hop started, it was just quote unquote a fad, and then it's grown and grown, and you fast forward to today, it's one of the most popular genres in all of music, and it's one of the most scrutinized too. I think at the same time, like anytime a hip hop artist drops an album, it is completely dissected. It's dissected on social media. Just everywhere you go, people talk about the J. Cole album or Pusha or whoever it is. Then there's debate on who's the best, and you just don't see that as much with other artists. Like Garth Brooks drops an album, you don't see people like dissecting it like they do Kendrick's album. You know what I mean? And it's a different time now with hip hop that I love. That you go to a hip hop concert, gosh, in 2022, whoever is performing hip hop artists, and you see such a more diverse crowd of people now. You know what I mean? Like they're just all kind of people at hip hop shows. And quickly before I forget, on that Hard Part 5 video, I do want to say my experience watching that video was a little unique in that I didn't get to see all the comments about the video before I saw the video. So I was doing something, and somebody sent it to me and said, hey, here's Kendrick's new song. So I just clicked and I started watching it. And I'm kind of like doing something else at the same time. So I'm not watching the video, like watching. I'm listening to the song, and I'm like, yo, that's the old Marvin Gaye song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I'm like, this is dope. So I went back to watch it again, and as I'm watching it, I'm like, man, and like, you know, a part of it, I'm like, man, he looks like Will Smith. I'm like, I never realized how much he looked like Will Smith. So like, I didn't realize that his face was changing.
Right,
like,
right.
That it was. I'm just like, man, he favors Will Smith. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that's OJ. And I'm like, okay, hold up. This is way deeper. But yet, the topic in which he's talking about is related to that particular person. He, you know, his face changes. Then when he starts rapping like Nipsey, his mannerisms are the same as Nipsey. He's talking to Nipsey's family. I was like, man, this is next level, man.
Yeah, man. And it, like, again, the visual is, it pulls you in. Oh, I got to see what the rest of this album is about, right? You can't.
No question.
And that was how special videos were back then. Is you see a debut song, you see the video, and you like, this song is hard, this video is crazy. I gotta get the album, because if that's the first joint, I gotta hear what the rest of it's like.
Right,
and that's exactly what this Kendrick rollout was. So yeah, man, I'm a huge Kendrick fan, and what I love about his music is each album is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like Damn doesn't sound like Good Kid, Mad City. You know, To Pimp a Butterfly is completely different than anything else that he's ever done and anything else that was out at that time. And he seems to always make sure that he has, you know, Compton in there. He keeps grounded of where he's from, and you know, it's just man, it's just big fan of Kendrick, man, big fan.
No doubt. Like, hey, let's jump into this last topic. I want to talk about shoes, and obviously, Bearcat fans have been talking a lot over the last, I guess, I don't know how many months it's been or years since the Under Armour deal is doing whatever it's doing with UC. Everybody talks about, you know, Bearcats going back to Jordan one day, and of course, I'd love to see that, and a lot of Bearcat fans would. I'm sure you would as well, and you even asked Wes Miller that in one of your interviews.
Right.
Which I thought had to be asked. But two things. One, what's your latest shoe you bought?
Oh, good question. Last shoe, I don't even buy them like that. They might have been the Cool Grays. I think I bought those. I think they dropped in January, December.
Okay.
I got to think. That might have been my last pair, but I got to think about that.
Okay. Actually, the Cool Grays are my favorite colorway of the Jordan 11s. I think that's the best. I think that's the best colorway, my opinion.
I'm not gonna argue. I'm the Breads and the Concords are special to me, and then the Space Jams too. But the Cool Gray is just something special about that. And then with the patent leather and it shining. Whoop.
I know. I'm with you. So I've got a question for you. I've never asked you this question. In Bearcat basketball history, who do you think has had the best shoe game?
You.
No. Well, thank you. Take me out of the. I'm sorry. Take me out of the equation. I didn't even factor me in. If you look at the guys, the on court, like I didn't play like a lot of guys, but just from the on court experience of guys playing, rocking Jordans, who would you say is the shoe goat of UC basketball?
Gosh. Man, shout out to Flight White. He had a good run in the UC uniform. That made I think too, like, it's hard to give you one dude because I think of Melvin Levitt spinning around the rim, and I think he had the 12s on.
He did.
Like, that's an iconic image. Like, that's, I don't want to date myself too much, but like that's a big part of my childhood, just seeing him fly in, spinning around with the 12s on. Kenyon catching the half court lob with the I think the 13s on, like man, like that, like Steve Logan has some too. Like it just
Yep.
I'm gonna go maybe Flight, but then I can't. Kenyon had a run too, like, and you were on those scenes with Kenyon, like.
Yep.
Kenyon wasn't playing.
Yep.
He wasn't playing around when it came to, like, yeah. I mean those images, and I've joked with, and I'm sure you have too. And I know he's working on it. Like I don't care about me saying that or not. Like you know that. Like he knows what he hears the fans, and he's. I know he had a. Did we talk about this? Am I breaking news when he said he was going to go play golf with MJ and bring it up? I don't know if that happened because I know he canceled a lot of.
It happened, yeah.
So I know that he canceled, like you said, he canceled a lot of scheduled trips, and that was one of them. But he like so I always wear Jordans when I'm covering. I mean, 9 times out of 10 when I'm at a game, I got on some black jeans, a nice blazer, and some crazy J's on. It's just, and I love like when DeMar comes up to me like, ooh, or when Kyle or like when Chris Lepore comes up. But every time Chris sees me, he's like, we gotta get. Yo, I was talking to Chris at the AAC tournament, and we were warming. The UC was warming up ahead of the Houston game, and Houston's a Jordan school, right? Mm-hmm. And all of their players, all of their assistants, Kelvin, they all got Jordans on, either Team Jordans or some crazy whatever's on. And I'm just watching them, and I turn to Chris and I go, the next time we play them, we need to be the team that I'm looking at. Like, ooh, like I'm sick of us not, shout out to Under Armour and all of that. I ain't trying to throw shade, but like it's just a classic. Cincinnati was the Jordan brand. Like it was just, they were one of the originals, and I want to see the jump man on the back with the blocks on the side, and I need that full swag back.
Oh, no.
Or the steep paw on the back or whatever. But it was such a classic look. But I'm still trying to figure out what was the last shoe I bought. I haven't been going crazy of late. I think it was the Cool Grays. You got me thinking. Anyway, but no, either Flight, shout out to Flight White, shout out to Kenyon, shout out to Melvin. Like those are the 3 that come to mind immediately. I remember Max Seal had a few pair too. Was it the Team Jordans? I think he rocked a few of those, but Flight, Kenyon, Melvin. Those are my 3.
That's a good list. Good list. I love it. Yeah, and it's from a business standpoint, it's in 2022 the whole shoe sponsorship thing is not as easy as it used to be.
Sure.
And when I mean easy, it's like, okay, this school's red and black. Let's go sponsor them. The signature Jordan shoe line's red and black, so this is going to help our sales. Like that was the thought process into like UC. Like it was as simple as that. But now in 2022, there's just so many more layers. It's like, who are you putting out in the NBA? Are we going to get a guy from your program that we could sign to, the Jordan brand, i.e. Duke's putting out, Zion and so forth and so on. Are you getting guys like that we could, eventually sign? So it's a business thing because, the Jordan brand used to be let's say $100 million company. Now it's a multi-billion-dollar company, and they're trying to reach higher levels. So it's just they're just dealing with a different business model. But they're just and then you've got the league. Are there teams in your league that are Jordan already or Nike? Like that factors into things. So there's a lot of things on the business front that need to be evaluated, but I think I can speak for a lot of people, including yourself, that we would love to see it happen as we roll into the Big 12. That would be dope.
Indeed, man. It would be a great, when we usher it in, to have the Jumpman logo right next to the Big 12 logo. That'd be special. That'd be special.
I always say the rollout for that. If you brought Kenyon Martin back to be on a video, like the rollout would be insane. Like the hype video to say we're back. Like I can already see it. Oh man.
I'm just thinking like we got, and then like on the football front, if we were able to make it a full football basketball deal, where like we got some stylish cats on the team. A lot of like like Dez was a cat that liked to get his spats, his cleats spatted, and Evan does the same. But I could just picture like some clean like flu game cleats on the black and red uni, or the some like even like some cement threes cleats on like a all black. Like, come on. We got to make this happen, bro.
Well, I mean, with the classic retros are red and black.
Right.
They're, predominantly, black, red, and white. And what are the Bearcats? Black, red, and white. So, but, I think it'll happen one day.
One day.
Keep pounding the pavement with it. So, man, listen, as always, we cover a lot of topics. And we're going to definitely get together and do this again, but I do want to do a round table talking about the NIL and the transfer portal. So we're going to connect up and we're going to make that happen. Sound good?
Yeah, man. Let me know.
Yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate you, man. Keep up the good work. And once again, just quickly tell everybody how they can absorb all your content.
Yes, sir. Mr. Keith Jenkins on all platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then KeithJenkins.com, Cincinnati.com.
Good deal, man. Good deal, brother. Hey, appreciate you, man. We'll definitely catch up here soon.
My man.
All right, Keith. Appreciate it, bro.